Good morning, everyone. Welcome to JMC Study Hub. This is Srishti Ghosh, and today we will be doing another part of reporting editing, and that is writing for media. And we will be covering print, electronic, and digital media today. So let's see what we will be going to learn in today's class. In today's class, we will be covering writing for print news media. We will be covering the different types of leads that comes into existence, the structure of news report, the different types of writing for electronic media that will be including the radio and television, and also how to write for digital news media. So we have a long lineup with news media today. So let's start with further ado. So the first thing that we are going to learn about in today's class is writing for print news media. Till now, in reporting and editing, you have learned about a number of things related to reporting, how to report, what are the different types of reporting, how to do it in case of print, in case of electronic media, in case of digital media. But when it comes to the writing part, yesterday in our last class, we learned about how to write it, how to write something that is quote unquote good in nature. Today, we will see that how that good writing can be a part of the different forms of media, like print media, electronic media consisting of radio and television, and also the internet or the digital media. So when we are talking about print news media, we are talking about something that does not have the inclusion or the involvement of audio or images or any kind of videography when you are reading that particular news story. So when it comes to newspapers or magazines or tabloids, a good newspaper, a good print news story ideally contains crisp and contact information. See, the point of presenting a crisp and a compact information is because there is no involvement of any other medium. You cannot see it, you cannot hear it. What you have in front of you are certain words that makes up a story. Now, as a writer of that particular news story, it is your excellence and your professionalism and your knowledge about that particular happening is what it is going to make up a story in front of the eyes of the readers or the target audience. The sentence structure and words may be in different formats, yet they are formal. So while writing in a print news media, you have to be very formal with your words. You have to be very passionate about the words you are writing. You have to be very intelligent for the words you are choosing. You do not have to choose much of jargons in it, but you have to choose something that is having a quiet impact upon the readers. Now, the focus is getting on to the point quickly and conveying the most applicable and authentic facts. So, your idea as a writer or as a reporter is to get on with the facts and figures in your news story in order to convey the people with most applicable and authentic facts. The fact that I'm using the word authentic here is because when it comes to news media, you have to keep one thing in mind that whatever facts or figures you are presenting, you have to be very cautious with its source, with its, with its ethical source. Because unless and until you have something that has been verified for like n number of times, you should not apply that in your news story unless and until you cross check it for the 100th time and make sure that yes, this fact or this figure is absolutely correct. You should not present it in your news story. So you have to be authentic about the facts that you are presenting in your news story. Now, the vital components of the news story are in the form of an inverted pyramid structure with 5 W's and 1 H, has lead quotations and other writing techniques. So a particular form of write-up in a print media usually comes in an inverted pyramid style. There are also a number of patterns that we will be learning in today's class, but what majorly we have to deal with is the inverted pyramid structure. That is, the most important information goes at the top of the pyramid, then the basic facts, that the background story maybe sometimes, and ending up with the least important information. The first 4 lines of any news story must contain the 5 W's and 1 H, that is what, where, when, why, and how. 5 W's and 1 H, the containing lead quotations and other writing techniques. So this is how you have to be very cautious and very, very creative while you are writing a copy for a print news media, right? So this was about the print news media. Next, we will see about the leads. So the first 3 to 4 lines that you write in a news story is what we call as the lead. It is basically the first paragraph that we are dealing with. The motive of the lead paragraph is to draw the attention of the readers, right? Because see, in today's world, people do not have much time. They might be having a hard copy of a newspaper while traveling on the train in the morning to their offices, but at the same time, they do not have that much of time till their station arrives. So what they will do is that they will open the newspaper and keep on reading the first 4 lines or sometimes just the headlines of the news stories. So you have to keep in mind that if you want your reader to get stuck on a particular news story, you have to keep your lead paragraph absolutely fine and crystal clear. Because unless and until you are grabbing the attention of the reader in the first 4 to 5 lines, you are not getting a hold of it. So the lead basically uses the 5 W's and 1 H judiciously to make a news story easy but interesting. So you are not giving some bland information, but you are giving something that is very interesting, something that the readers are not aware about. A good lead usually have the least of 5 W's and 1 H. So what are the different types of leads that we get? The first thing that we get is the summary lead. Summary lead is the most common kind of lead. In this kind of lead, you usually get the kind of information that you generally see in most of the news stories. For example, you get to see the 5 W's and 1 H. For example, if we take the example of a train accident, we will see that where the train accident took place, when did it happen, how did it happen, and what actually happened, whether the train was coming at a high speed, whether there was a derailment. So what was the reason behind it? So it is basically the summary of what actually happened that comes into the first paragraph of the news story. When a person reads that particular lead, he will have a more or less picturization of what actually happened, right? Next comes the question lead. Question leads are not much used in the news stories because, it starts with a particular question. And the moment you question your reader, they start and they will sit and start thinking about the answer and they will not move on to the next part of the story. So sometimes it is not used, but sometimes in feature writings, question leads are very much used because, those are the soft stories. And sometimes you take yourself a lot of time in your hands and read them. So question lead is used in that arena. Next is the quotation lead. Now, quotation lead we have seen in a lot of news writing where it starts with a quote, but you have to be very careful to give a quote that actually goes on with a write-up. If you give William Shakespeare's quote in a tragic incident, it will not actually, it will clash. The entire story and your quotation will clash, and it will give a certain amount of discouragement among the readers. They will be like, what it is about, why is there a certain weird quote by William Shakespeare where it has no relationship to the news story. So you have to be very careful as a writer of the newspaper, as the person who is collecting the stories. You have to know that when you are collecting the stories, how you are going to arrange it. Even if you are going with the quotation lead, what type of lead will go with this particular story? If it is a tragic incident that is happening, it is better not to use any kind of quote and just jump straight right into the summary lead like we do in the summary lead. So when you are using a quotation lead, for example, you are explaining something related to the coronavirus or something like that, you have to be very careful that it relates to that particular thing or event happening. For example, if I'm writing a tribute anchor story to Birju Maharaj, who passed away recently, and if I'm writing that, I might start off my anchor story using his quote. So that is when you are actually using it for a particular purpose. It has a purpose with the news story. That is correct. But when you are using it without a particular thing, it does not have any relationship with the news story. It becomes very, to be very honest, it becomes very weird when a person tries to read it. Next, we will come to the creative lead. A creative lead is usually used in feature stories or soft stories that has some creative or unique information in the first paragraph. And the next is the contrast lead. Contrast lead is something that has to do with, a contrast information where it is, a heavy low feeling that you get while reading the first paragraph of the lead. So these are the different types of leads through which you can start off your story. While news story, the summary lead, the question lead, the quotation lead, the creative lead, and the contrast lead. Right. The next thing that we will learn is the structure of news report. See, from here you are already aware about the inverted pyramid. At that point of time, I also told you that we are going to learn about the different patterns and structures of news story. So here is it. The first pattern of a news story is basically the chronological pattern. See, from the name, you can have an idea that that it is trying to tell you that it is talking about chronology. That is, information is given in a chronological pattern, right? Like, for example, what do I mean by chronological pattern? For example, let's just take the example of the 26/11 terror attack. For example, the terror attack took place, and I'm going to write a news report for tomorrow's newspaper. So, since it is a hard news, extremely hard news, because it was a country emergency that point of time, I will start on writing in an inverted pyramid manner, right? But if I'm writing that same news, for example, after the attack took place, after the 48 hours, 72 hours of struggle, after that, when I'm writing, I might opt my news story into a chronological pattern where I will be basically starting off the news story about what actually happened one by one, and then giving out the climax or the what I'm trying to say or what this news story is about at the end. At the end is called the chronological pattern. So it is the most basic pattern with a lead, foreshadowing, that is a brief summary. You are giving a proper background check, that is a brief summary, and the chronological storytelling and climax. So it is nothing that you are giving out the actual information in the very beginning like that of the inverted pyramid, but you are making your particular news story flow like a smooth river, right? So that is known as the chronological pattern. Next, we are dealing with essentially that is the inverted pyramid. You already know that is a very popular structure you get to see. That is the most important information coming in the first lead. Then you are getting the basic information or facts and figures. And in the last, we get to end the news story with the least important information, or sometimes contact informations are given, or something that is also important but should be at the end of the story. So the information is basically arranged in a descending order of importance, right? So that is the inverted pyramid. When we come to the narrative pattern is exactly the opposite of the inverted pyramid pattern. That is the pyramid pattern. It uses scenes, anecdotes, and dialogue to build a climax. For example, in a narrative pattern, what you get to see is, you will see that the story will start with nothingness, and then it will keep on adding facts, it will keep on adding figures, it will keep on adding information, it will keep on adding, a number of identification and a number of information and a number of knowledge regarding that particular news story. And in the end, it will give the most important information or sometimes the climax of the story. So that is the narrative pattern. And then comes the hourglass pattern. An hourglass pattern, the hourglass is in the shape of like two curves that has been tampered from the middle. That is the hourglass pattern. So the news story basically starts with a summary and then it shifts to the narrative. The top of the news delivers the story and then it shifts to the story part. Because see, in inverted pyramid, we see that the entire news story is very brief, right? They are giving the most important information and then it is shifting to the, in a narrative, in a descending order of information. But when it comes to the hourglass pattern, we are seeing that in the first summary, they are giving the important information, right? So like what happened, where it happened, why it happened, when it happened, how it happened. So they are giving the information right there. But when it comes down to the end of the story, they start narrating a particular story. They start narrating what happened in a broader perspective. So basically, you get the entire story after the news is being delivered to you. So these are the structures of news report that you get to see in a newspaper early in the morning. These are the chronological pattern, the inverted pyramid, the narrative pattern, and the hourglass pattern, right? The next thing that we will learn is the writing for electronic media. See, writing for electronic media basically covers two things, that is the radio and one is television. When we are dealing with radio, you have to keep in mind that there is absolutely no scope of images or any kind of visuals. And when you are dealing with television, there is scope of both audio as well as visuals. So writing for such mediums include audio video formats, jingles, scripts, seeks to hold the attention of the audience. But there are certain principles that needs to be followed when you are writing for electronic news media. Let's see what are the principles for electronic media. The first thing that you have to keep in mind is writing to be very short, simple, and declarative. See, your main idea is to present something that is very short, that is simple, and decorative in nature. Please do not go for something that is absolutely complex in nature or compound in nature or has very tough terms that are induced in it. So writing should be short, simple, and declarative. Then writing should be into the a flow, and it should not sound choppy. It should something that would seem seamless, right? There should be no obstruction. There should be no there should be no buffering, right, in the writings. So avoid using adjectives, use action words and verbs instead. So it is very important for any writing, whether it is print or electronic. For print, you might use some adjectives because those are written stuffs. But when it comes to electronic media, try to avoid adjectives and use action words and verbs instead. Write in active voice. Please do not go for writing it in passive voice. It does not sound good, or it does not sound, into the flow. It sounds very choppy. So write it in active voice. Avoid using abbreviations and symbols. Tell the story in step-by-step function, and the vocabulary must be simple. You have to tell the story in a step-by-step function. See, when it comes to radio, you absolutely have no idea what kind of audience you are dealing with. You are actually dealing with people from the urban areas and also with the people from the remote and the rural areas. So you have to be very specific about the words you are choosing, about the language in which you are speaking. You should have an absolute grip over the communication ability of yours. You have to understand what type of audience you are actually dealing with. So this is what writing for electronic media is all about. You have to your writing should be short, simple, and decorative. Your writing should come out in a particular flow. It should not sound choppy. It should not use any kind of much adjectives. Should use verbs and action words. Should write in active voice. Please do not go for using abbreviations and symbols. Tell the story in a step-by-step fashion, and the vocabulary must be simple. The next thing that we are going to learn is the writing for radio. So what are the programs that if you listen to radio, you will understand the presence of all these programs available on the radio. I myself listen to radio a lot in the morning, that is 98.3, and sometimes other radio channels as well, but my daily day-to-day radio channel is 98.3, and when I listen to that, I get to hear all these programs that are going. The first thing that you get to hear is the announcement. When at 7 o'clock the RJ comes on in, he starts giving an announcement first thing in the morning. That is, you will hear the name of the program or the time of the the air of that particular program. These informations are called announcements. They are specifically detailed, clear messages. So the announcement is made in the first. You will also see that these announcements are made in between the programs to give the audience the idea what time is it or what program they are playing. The next thing that you see is the radio talk. This is the oldest radio format, and radio talk basically invites some special personality or some famous personality for a talk show. Such shows are scripted and a normal, informal, conservative manner on a particular topic. For example, I'll give you a good example. Now, radio talk might not be, a talk show that essentially creates a lot of fuss, but at the same time it is something that happens all day long. For example, the RJ is talking about the COVID situation in our country. Okay, for example, he is, since I'm talking about 98.3 radio Mirchi, I'm talking about the Calcutta counterpart. So when the RJ is coming on air and he is talking about the COVID situation in West Bengal, he will talk about it, and then he will say that I have online, on the telephone line with me, Dr. Basu, who is also the head of the department of the COVID ward from the Woodlands Hospital in Calcutta. So he will call that professional and he will talk with him over the phone line, and he will ask what our listeners should do in this type of COVID situation, whether they should whether the state should start work from home or not, whether there will be a 50-50 involvement, a hybrid workspace. So this kind of information given out by the professionals is known as the radio talk. Now, the RJ might call up the person prior to that of the talk show and ask him that whether he is free or not, and he will tell him that what questions he is going to ask. So this is what a radio talk show is. When it comes to radio interviews, as the name suggests, it includes questions that are being asked to the celebrities or listeners of, celebrities of listeners' interest. Now, questions are are pre-planned and are written keeping in mind the latest trends and news. So, for example, the radio plays a song from a new film that is to be released. Okay, for example, a Shah Rukh Khan movie that is going to be released. So after playing that particular song, the RJ will say that today we have with us Shah Rukh Khan and Anushka Sharma with us at our studio. Sir, please tell me about more about your film. So here you are calling on these celebrities, but the celebrities are coming for a reason. They are promoting their particular film. They are promoting their film, so they are coming into the studio. You make the audience, your listeners listen to their song, and then you bring them on in live on air, and then you talk, you ask questions, they give you answers, and at the end they will say that please do watch XYZ film at your nearest theaters on 21st February. And shower much love and support us. So it is just like a kind of any interview that you watch on television, but they are coming for a particular purpose. That is, they are promoting their film through the radio channels, right? Next is the radio discussion. Now, radio discussion here, the host is discussing more than two people, and it is about some kind of controversial issue. Often they are not pre-written, but the host presents the written script to introduce the issue. Radio discussions are not much famous in the Indian radio counterpart, but at the same time there are radio discussions where you call upon a number of people and you talk to them over a particular topic. So that is radio discussion. When I'm talking about radio drama is something that I personally like the most about radio, because it is basically a story time. Okay, so in Radio Mirchi, radio drama is something that involves a particular story. For example, I am narrating a story via radio channel. So when I am narrating a story, I cannot just go on reading a particular story in a monotonous manner. I need to have particular voice effect. I need to have sound effects. Need to have music effects. I need to make a proper script so as to how many people will be there with me when we will be reading out a particular story. Will there be will do we need any kind of other music element? Do we need anything else? Because see, these audio stories goes on making these are very complicated in nature, because you need a lot of things to make the entire story lively or coming out in front of your eyes, because there is no presence of visuals. So radio drama basically involves voice, music, and sound effects. Radio drama seeks to inform and make people aware about the current and the social problems. The script should be simple and comprehend. So in Radio Mirchi, the radio dramas like Sunday Suspense actually happens every Sunday at 12 o'clock, where they actually tell stories, that is the horror stories, right? So when it comes to the horror stories, it might not be always about the current or social problems. So when it comes to horror story, you can imagine the amount of sound effects, the amount of audio work that goes behind in presenting the story. And they have, millions of listeners, not only from India, but across India. People from the foreign countries actually listens to them, because, with the coming of digital media, these radio channels are uploading their audio stories on YouTube, and they are sharing the links on their social media platforms. So more people are being aware of these radio dramas. So right now, if you have the mobile in front of you, just go to YouTube, right? Sunday Suspense Radio Mirchi. You will see over hundreds of stories are coming, audio stories are coming in front of you. You can just play one, even if you don't understand Bengali, will not be an issue. Just open it and just listen to the number of sound effects that has been used, the number of dialogues that has been used, the number of voice change, a single person making different types of voice. So a lot of work goes on behind this radio drama. The next thing is the news. That is the most common thing that you get to hear in a radio, in a radio announcement, that is the news bulletins. One by one news bulletins are given. Now, news bulletins are given in a very interesting manner. That is, they go on giving on the headlines, just they do not exaggerate the thing, because they know that people will not be able to understand what they are saying. So your bulletins should be crisp, short, and to the point. Right. So these are the different types of writing that goes on in the radio counterpart: the announcement, radio talk, radio interviews, radio discussions, radio drama, news. All of them require some particular script according to which the entire thing goes on in. The next thing that we'll be learning is the writing for media. So writing for radio is gone without the help of visuals. Now, writing of television, you are having in mind that there is the presence of both audio and visuals, right? So there are two types of writing that we get on television. One is the spec show writing, another is the non-spec writing. Spec show writing is you writing a script or writing anything for a feature film or a television show. For such shows, that generally includes the story that might interest the target audience. Writing for such shows are either writing completely for a new show, or starting off with a new story, or continuing with the existing shows. That is, the television serials that we get to see. A non-spec writing, on the other hand, is something that generally writes something that is not a soap opera or a telenovela. These are basically the entertainment shows. For example, the reality shows, right? Like Big Boss, like Saregamapa, the game shows, the gossip shows. Writing for such shows do not include a story, but it is, in an interaction form with the audience, and it is informal and conversational in nature. So one is for writing for the serials, that might be starting off with a new serial, new script, or continuation of a story, and another is the writing for the entertainment programs. Might be Big Boss, might be any kind of other gossip shows, or game shows, anything. So these are the different types of writing for television. Now, when you are writing for television, also it requires huge amount of labor and huge amount of things that goes on in writing for television. So these were the writing for electronic media, that is radio and television. The next thing that we are going to learn is writing for digital news media. See, when we are dealing with writing with digital news media, we are not only dealing with the digital counterpart, but we are dealing with the news items, that is the news stories. We are dealing with the audios. We are dealing with the visuals as well. So we are getting all of them in one thing, and that is the digital news media is basically referred to as the print plus, and it uses both written matter as well as multimedia elements that produces a greater impact on the audience, for quality becomes more important and not quantity of the amount of information provided. So in digital news media, you will see that you will not only be reading a news story about the accident happening, but with that you will get a number of pictures attached to it, a number of videos that are going viral on social media. You will get interviews from people on spot. You will get people sharing personal images on their social media spaces as well. So you are getting a lot of things at the same time. So it is not about the quantity of information you are getting, but the quality of the information that you are getting. A small written script should, however, be well written, accurate, complete, and effective. So whatever you are writing on your social media or counterpart of any news channel, you have to be very specific about it. You have to be very accurate, complete, and have an effective value attached to it. An important aspect of in the world of digital news media is immediacy. Because see, a news media requires, in a print media, it requires for the story to be written and then get print and then get published in the next day. For television, you can either cast it live, or you have to bring something, you have to bring and then it gets broadcast. But when it is, you have to call the media people, they will cover it, and then you can get to you will get to watch it on television. But when you are dealing with something that has to do with the social media platform or the new media or the digital media, you can just click the picture on your phone and you can just click on one button, and that is share, and the entire thing gets shared on a world platform. So the factor of immediacy. Another factor is the feedback. Once you share, people will see and they can give their own comment for that. They can give their feedback immediately to that particular picture, write up, graphics, anything. So all news or breaking news should immediately reach to the audience. It holds a larger capacity for information, and it is also associated with permanence. So this is what digital news media is actually dealing with. You are dealing with immediacy. You are dealing with something that is called the feedback. Right? So in case of newspaper, you don't get a feedback immediately. In case of television also, you don't get a feedback immediately. But when it comes to digital news media, feedback is something that is very important. Right? The next thing that we'll see, that writing for social media and blog. See, writing for print and electronic media, we saw how specific you have to be. Writing for blog and social media, you have to be very careful about the authenticity of the information that you are presenting. You cannot essentially go on giving, copying information from one website to another, because today a number of plagiarism sites or checking reports are available. So one can easily get caught in that. So first you have to know your audience. See, if you are writing for a blog, for example, I started a blog for cinema lovers. So I have to know what is the current need of the cinema lovers. I have to know the audience. I have to know, what is the recent trend that is going on among the film critics, among the film reviewers, right? I have to read and react to it. What are the goals and how do they relate to the other marketing content? I will see that how these film lovers are reacting to the other marketing content. I have to develop an editorial calendar and plan my blog, the blog topics that I am going to write on, whether I'm going to write on a film, whether I'm going to write on a song, anything. Be prepared who will manage and write the blog for. If you are doing it on a professional level, you must have a team attached to it. But if you are doing it on your own, you can actually plan a calendar of the number of things that you are going to do with. So prepare a schedule. The need is to prepare a schedule, promote your blog, listen to the feedback, and comment on the comments. Very important thing. Since feedback is one thing that is very unique in the world of digital media, you have to keep up with it. You have to interact with people. You have to maintain an authentic self for yourself. Similarly, when we are writing for social media, not only you have to know about the hashtags or the recent trends that are related into the social media, you have to interact with your followers. You have to establish your own voice. You have to make your people understand that I am an established person behind this particular profile. Right? So why do you think these content creators over Instagram, Twitter, and other social media platforms are famous? Because they are establishing their voice using a consistent style. Give more than you take from the trusted sources. Add thrives on social media. Write accordingly. Have goals with each engagement. Be consistent with your tone. You see, today we are all baffled by the factor of engagement. Even if your posts are not getting engagement, make sure the amount of, even if you are having 500 followers, make sure those are authentic. Make sure that they know about you. They know about the content you are producing. Make sure that they know about what time you are going to post, so that they wait for your content. It does not matter whether you are having 5 million people following you, or 500 million. So it is always quality over quantity on social media. So these are the writing techniques that you need to get through while writing on social media. Try to make your point in a very crisp manner. Try to make it short, try to make it brief and to the point. Do not go for long paragraphs. If you are writing something, of course, go for long paragraphs. But if you are explaining something, or if you are trying to make a point, do not go for long paragraphs. People do not have the time to go through long paragraphs because they are just scrolling. Try to make something that is out of the box. See, there are hundreds of people writing on a blog. There are hundreds and thousands and crores of people who are writing and posting on social media every few milliseconds, not even second, every millisecond they are posting. So your post has to be something that is different from them. Your post has to stand out. If you want that particular engagement, you need to stand out of that. And for that, you need to interact with the people. You need to know what they want, right? What their need is. Establish your own voice. Do not copy any other content creators. Do not copy any other blogger. Do not try to copy anyone else's style. If you have a particular style in your voice, if you have a particular style in your writing, if you have a particular way of presenting your profile to some other people, stick to that. Because that is the most creative thing that you can do on the internet platform. So this is what your social media pattern is. But you also have to keep in mind about the ethics, about the policies, because once you get a copyright issue or something like that, it will essentially bring down the reputation of the company you are working for, or any other maybe you are working for the digital counterpart of a famous newspaper publication. So you have to be very clear, and you have to be very you have to have the ability to understand the policies, the editorial policies that are attached to that particular newspaper, no matter in which section you are working for. So these are the different writing formats for print, electronic media, and digital media. Now we will go on to the questioning part of our writing for media, that is print, electronic, and digital. The first question that I have with you is a fill in the blanks, that is, dash are the various programs once listened on radio. The options are A, rap, option B, track, option C, radio formats, and option D, programs of radio. So what we listen on the radio are basically a number of radio formats that we got, like announcements, radio talk shows, the oldest one, radio discussions, the news formats, that is the news announcements, and the radio dramas. So option C, radio formats, is your correct answer. Radio formats are the various programs once listens on radio. This might range from talk shows to that of radio dramas, and talk show being the oldest of all of them. So your option C, radio formats, is the correct answer. So when you fill in the blanks, you will get radio formats are the various forms of programs that once listens on radio. The next question that I have with you is announcement details have option A, time, option B, host, option C, name of programs, option D is both A and C, that is time and host. So announcement is a part of the which programs, that is the program formats that we see in radio. So when we talk about announcement, we see the host coming on in, giving out the names of the program and also the time of the day. So option B, both A and C, will be your correct answer. Often one may hear the name of the program and time. These informations are called the announcements. They are specifically detailed and clear messages. So we are dealing with both time, that is option A, and C, that is name of the program. Option D, both A and C, will be your correct answer. Next question that I have with you is spec shows are option A, television shows, option B, feature films, option C, political news, and option D, both A and B. So spec shows are essentially a part of which electronic media? These are essentially a part of the television counterpart, and we are dealing with two types of shows: spec shows and non-spec shows. Spec shows are those which consist of both television and feature films. It is the feature film or television show scripts written for shows generally include story that might be of interest to the target audience. Writing for such shows might include writing for a completely new show, that is a completely new story, or and with an original idea, or something of a show that already exists. So option D, both A and B, is your correct answer. Next question that I have with you is another fill in the blanks, that is, in writing for digital media, dash becomes important. So the options that we have here are A, quality, B, quantity, option C, accuracy, and option D, balance. See, while writing for digital media, you have to know that whether you are having 5 likes on your post or 50 likes on your post, people will always go for a write-up that has quality, not for the number of write-ups that you actually post. So in digital media, or also known as the print plus, that uses both written and multimedia elements, people have a greater impact with that of writings that are having quality in it. So any writing for digital media, in writing for digital media, quality becomes very important. So option A is your correct answer. Next question that I have with you is, according to the dash, news should be given in a linear fashion. So this is a fill in the blanks as well. Let's see the options that we have. A, inverted pyramid, A, B, print writing, Option C, storytelling component, and option D, ethics of reporting. So according to the dash, news should be given in a linear fashion. So when I am talking about linear fashion, I am talking about presenting the information or the five W's or H or the lead paragraph in such a manner that is essentially dealing with a storytelling component. So according to storytelling component, news should be given in a linear fashion. So option C is your correct answer. So I hope all the questions and the explanations are clear to you. If you have any doubt or any question regarding it, please let me know, and that will be it for today's class. Thank you so much.